everyone, my name is Erica Shobe, and this is my final for my Women and Gender Studies class. The specific issue that I am covering is reproductive justice. Reproductive justice has been a long-standing issue in the United States with years of debate over being pro-life and pro-choice. Most people think that reproductive justice only covers abortion. However, this is false and creates many negative connotations around reproductive justice. It helps people with family planning, access to birth control, and IVF for those who struggle to have children. The ability to have access to these tools is necessary for all people so that they can have a family when they consider it to be the right time. Reproductive justice also guarantees that individuals can raise children in a safe and healthy environment. The United Nations has affirmed that reproductive justice also covers a parent's right to raise their child in a safe environment and access to clean water and food. I plan on highlighting that these rights are necessary for all individuals and shouldn't have such a large stigma around them. One solution to reproductive justice is comprehensive sex education. This would help people know how to be safe and have an understanding on the good that birth control can do. Comprehensive sex education would also help to remove the stigma that being informed will lead to unsafe behavior. This will help people understand the importance of protection to prevent STDs and unwanted pregnancy. According to reproductive justice across disciplines and demographics, reproductive justice is intertwined with other social issues and power structures. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we saw a massive threat to people's bodily autonomy and equality. Ross and Solinger used this in their writing techniques to show how important it is for people to have access to reproductive justice. This allows people access to family planning and birth control, not just abortion. In this journal, analyzing the writing of After Sex, we start to study how women of color have historically had less access to reproductive justice. We constantly see women of color struggling with access to these basic rights. Women of all races, according to a study done by the Violet Project, have always gotten paid less on the dollar to a man. However, women of color and Indigenous women get paid less than half of what white women make. Women of all races also deal with different issues when trying to terminate a pregnancy. Women who have had access to more resources are going to tend to be the people that are able to get their reproductive justice and rights available to them. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we saw many of these topics being thrown back to state decisions. With this, a woman could be forced to travel to receive care elsewhere. This could cause issues with not having enough money, possibly having other children to care for, and even a person being physically disabled and unable to travel. Over the years, we have seen reproductive justice and rights become a hot-button issue. The argument has become pro-life or pro-choice in the United States and nothing more. Many of these people who are pro-life tend to be religious and align themselves with a church ideology. But can we ever draw a line between religious freedom and reproductive justice? Often when people hear the words reproductive, their minds immediately turn to an abortion. However, it is important for people to understand that this is not the case. Reproductive justice also deals with family planning, routine gynecologist appointments, and access to contraceptives. It is important that people in government draw a line between one's religious freedom and the right to bodily autonomy. Many of the laws and legislation that we are seeing come into the United States are based around Christian views in America, and the lines between separation of church and state are becoming more blurred. However, there are religious beliefs within the Jewish community that state that an abortion be required if the person giving birth's life is at risk. To further my argument, why are we only ever focusing on the arguments of what people of one religion want and not another one? We have seen too many stories in the media about nurses who have refused care for their reproductive rights based on their religious beliefs. In my opinion, if you are a healthcare professional, you took an oath to help people. So I believe that it is important that we ensure individuals are willing to help and not going to have their religious freedom infringe on a person's reproductive justice issues. One way to help solve these issues is by offering comprehensive sex education for both children and adults. Comprehensive sex education would help people know how to be safe and have an understanding on the good that birth control can do. Comprehensive sex education would also help to remove the stigma that being informed will lead to unsafe behavior. This will help people understand the importance of protection to prevent STDs and unwanted pregnancy. Not only does it cover information about bodies and safe sex, but it can also help people understand consent, signs of sexual abuse, and reproductive responsibility. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, a statistic done by the National Center for Health Statistics National Survey of Family Growth reported in 2015 to 2019, Roughly half of all adolescents surveyed reported that they received the minimum sex education that is outlined in Healthy People 2030. Among teens aged 13 to 17 that were surveyed, fewer than half reported that they learned about intercourse before they had sex for the first time. Furthermore, these students in the teen age group, 13 to 17, reported that they were instructed to abstain from sexual intercourse or wait until marriage. Rather than learning about where to obtain birth control and how to use a condom, over the course of a 20-year period from 1995 to 2015, we saw more than a 20% drop in females being told how they could obtain birth control and remain safe during sexual intercourse. In the study done from 2015 to 2019, of all of the African American female students surveyed, only 30% reported that they were told how to obtain birth control before they started having sexual intercourse. While people may think that comprehensive sex education would lead to unsafe behaviors, students are being taught age-appropriate topics having to do with their curriculum. Also, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, learning such information is most effective before the initiation of sexual activity. Studies done by this organization show that the positive impacts of comprehensive sex education are far more than any negative. They saw reduced sexual activity, reduced frequency in unprotected sex, and increased use of contraception. Comprehensive sex education also goes beyond that with helping identify healthy relationships and social and emotional learning. Thank you so much.